And then when that's over, guess what? You just as black as me. You back being black. So what you said, it didn't really gain you no points. In the end, it just entertained the ones that want to agree with you at that moment in time. Yeah, he said, yeah, that right, yeah. Well, maybe the opposition will get on my side, you know, and down and, oh, what can I, man, I'm gonna say something, man, I'm gonna get some brownie points or something like that, so somebody can get on their side. Well, maybe the opposition will get on my side, you know, and cheer me on. Yeah, for that moment in time. And then when that's over, guess what? You just as black as me. You back being black. So what you said, it didn't really gain you no points. In the end, it just entertained the ones that want to agree with you at that moment in time. Yeah, he said, yeah, that right, yeah. But when you try to do something, guess what? You try to go somewhere, guess what? You try to get something done, guess what? Look in the mirror. You're a black man yourself. And race does matter.
No, it absolutely
Anything
does.
we do, he's stupid.
Yeah, you know, that kind of...
Need to be slapped.
Yeah.
It need to be slapped. Man, I don't know what, you know, like I said, they try to find acceptance. He trying to find acceptance for people that don't even care about him. You know what I'm saying? Nobody care about what he talking about or what he doing. They wish bad up on him. I'm always wishing well for people. You know, I just sit back, I hear things or whatever, you know. I'm the type of person, whatever people do in their life, let them do it. If you happy, you doing what you're doing, hey, you let you, hey. But the boy got a lot of issues in his life going on. He don't have no happiness, no peace in his life. You know what I'm saying? And when you don't have peace and happiness.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from Deontay Wilder. Now, before we go into his actual comments, let me give you, man, the background of this situation, because some of you, man, may not know the history of it. Jermell Charlo came out sometime within the last few months or weeks and told Deontay Wilder to cark his mouth. To cark it, yeah? Put a big cark in his mouth. He talked too much rubbish. Jermell Charlo told him to settle himself and be quiet, moaning about the man getting at him. We all know what Wilder's baseline has been. Oh man, the man's keeping me down, and it's the man. Even though I won my court case, like, don't make no sense, Wilder. You say the man's out to get you, but then you won your court case. Which is it? Because trust me, if the man's out to get you, you ain't winning no court case. Because the man, if there's ever a man, if there's ever any kind of institutional pressure, guess where it's coming from? The court system. And you won there, so which is it? You can't have it all the ways. You can't say, oh man, it's what's that goofy saying he says recently? It's the complexion for the protection. So hella goofy sounding. You got a good whooping from Tyson Fury. It's as long and short of that. That's the long and the short of it. You got a good old whooping. Now, I know that may have made you feel oppressed, because you will, trust me, Fury was all the way oppressing you. He was 10 out of 10 oppressed. No doubt, 100%. 1,000,000%. The way he was licking your head off, he was 10 out of 10 oppressed. Yeah? No doubt. But you weren't no more oppressed or unoppressed than he was in the first fight. That's what I don't understand with these goofies. Why is it acceptable for Wilder to come out and blame... come out with his conspiratorial... try and make out it's bigger than what it is. Why is that acceptable? Because if Fury had to come out and said, oh man, it's the man, the man's got me down, and it would make no sense, and people would clown him, saying, Fury, you've been hit too hard. Now Wilder's doing the same, but his goofy fans, they are so challenged, they can't see the wood from the trees. And in fact, let me tell you this, if AJ came out and said the same thing, they'd laugh at him and say, oh man, AJ, all that kind of goofy stuff. That's 100%, that's what they'd be doing. we've heard it before from them. Sloppy looking asses. Yeah, the only people I know, yeah, the LDBC and the Goofy Wilder fans who talk about, oh man, we gotta stay together. And then Mark Breland gets thrown under the bus. It's unbelievable. He weren't the first one either. There's been others. I'm trying to think, who was there? There's a whole load. Oh man, we gotta stick together. And then every single man that comes along gets thrown under the bus. No doubt. So anyway, that was the context. Jermell Charlo told Wilder to stop whining. It's not a good look. Tyson Fury gave you a good old oppression. No doubt. He oppressed you. He left you all the way oppressed. In the ring. 10 out of 10. Yeah? Now I'm actually hearing that given the way that, because you've got to remember, what do we know? The Wilder and Fury fight took place in LA. So I'm actually hearing that Deontay Wilder's filing charges against the LAPD because of the way he got done. Kind of like a Rodney King 2.0, one of them ones. That's what I'm hearing. I'm telling you, man, I'm hearing you right now. That's what I'm hearing. They're saying that Wilder's going to try and use the footage. Wilder's now contacting his lawyers because of his court victory. Deontay Wilder's now contacting his lawyers and seeing if he can sue the LAPD on a Rodney King Part 2 kind of thing. That's what I'm hearing, 100%. He's trying to take the footage of the Rodney King thing and then take the footage of his fight and say, look at the similarities. One of them ones. So we'll see how that plays out anyway. But from my opinion is, listen, you ain't got no case, Wilder. You ain't got no case. Yes, you got whooped, but you signed up for it. Yeah, you can try and sue the LAPD all you want. What's it got to do with them? You just got whooped, and you signed up for it. That's the difference. Rodney King didn't sign up for it. You signed to have a fight with Tyson Fury. This is what I don't understand. The problem with 2021, yeah, reality isn't what's important. In 2021, what's important is how people perceive things. If I perceive myself to be a dog, you must call me a dog, otherwise you go jail. Otherwise you lose all your social media channels. Just get gone. If you don't call me my right, whatever they call it, if you don't address me as a mirror, or whatever it is, if you don't address me as a bicycle, then you're going to go jail and lose your job and lose all your social media channels. When the facts are the facts. Yeah? So for some reason, again, in 2021, it's all about how people perceive things. If I perceive myself to be a cat, that's what it is. If Wilder perceives himself to have been abused by the LAPD, then he must have a case. That's what they're saying now, no joke. That's what they're saying. Wilder's saying now he's got a case that's going to hold up in court because he's got the footage of it. Yeah? Wilder's running around saying he's Rodney King 2.0, is what I'm hearing. It's shocking. You wouldn't believe it. Unless you'd listened to Wilder and what the things he's been saying recently, you wouldn't believe it, would you? But you just can't put nothing past him now. Oh man, the man's out to get me, and the man's out to get me. He got me down bad. Where was all these comments when you was winning the first fight? You weren't worried about no man, was you? You was too busy talking about how you was anointed. Oh man, I'm anointed by God, and where was your anointment then? Where was your anointment when Tyson LAPD Fury was all over you? You had like a bad rash. Anyway, let's move on. So like I said, the context of Wilder's comments, Charlo told Wilder to stop whining. Charlo told Wilder, boxing isn't about race. And I have to admit, of all the sports and of all the times in the world today, I've told you, man, before, I am not one of these goofies who will come out and say, oh yeah, race never plays a factor in anything. It's not true. There are institutional race differentials does exist, 100%. However, as far as race differentials go, as it pertains to boxing, or from boxing's point of view, it's probably in the whole world, boxing would be probably one of the least, probably one of the safest places to go. I put to you, I struggle to find an example of how people are oppressed in boxing because of race. It's probably one of it's probably one of the frontiers. Probably one of the safe havens, if the truth be known. Because it's not like NFL or NBA, where you've got a whole load of owners. Boxing, again, is one of the very few sports where you are the boss, essentially. For example, in NBA, Eddie Hearn would be an owner. In boxing, AJ, Wilder and Fury are the owners. If that makes sense. All of these people, they take cuts. LeBron, he's lucky to get 1%. Whereas in boxing, AJ's taking 60, 70% home. Wilder's taking 30, 40, 50% home. If that makes sense. Boxing's really one of the few places. And even golf and that. Golf, you're taking a small sliver. Boxing really is the purest place for capitalism, and it doesn't have, there's very little influence. I'm trying to think really, show me the influence of the man in the sport. Now, Wilder says that, oh man, it's because, the gloves and, listen. I'd understand, yeah, if the commission came to Wilder and told Wilder, listen Wilder, we're not allowing you to check the gloves. We're not allowing you to test your water drink. You drink water. Oh, and by the way, you must drink this water that we hand you. If that was the case, I'd understand it. You know what? That there is you know what I'm saying? That there is some sort of systemic issue there. The regulators did you wrong. That wasn't the case. The regulators allowed you to have your people in there. And what I don't understand is Wilder made all these claims about the gloves, but I'm not a professional boxer, but you best believe a professional boxer knows what a glove feels like. You spent 7 rounds in there with the man, and it took you months to try and make claims about there was egg weight in the glove. Anyone who's boxed knows if they're being hit with an egg weight or a normal fist. It's not rocket science. It's not close, by the way. It's a completely different feel when you get hit with a solid object, like an egg weight. So where was Wilder's immediate claims within the week after the fight? Wilder was too busy crying about his suit being too heavy. So I find that suspect. He wasn't mentioning the gloves until he saw the footage afterwards, but that's not the same. Either you felt it immediately or you didn't. I remember when Cotto, who got cheated by Margarito, Cotto said immediately after the fight, his hands didn't feel like hands. They felt like they were rock hard. You didn't make them claims. And even to this day, to be fair, Wilder's never actually said, yeah, thinking about it now, his punches felt rock hard. You never said that. So the whole evidence thing's weak. And I think the reason why Wilder left it so long was so that there was no evidence. Because guess what? If you'd have kicked off in the ring after the fight, there would have been something you could do. You didn't kick nowhere off. You was too busy moaning about your suit and moaning about your trainer. So where was this for you to sit there and say that the system got you and the man's out to get you? Where was the man getting you then? Because I don't see it myself. You won the rematch. Anyway, so Jermell Charlo said that to Wilder. Wilder, as you've heard there at the start of the video, Wilder has now responded. And one of the key things I want to pick up on, Wilder says that Charlo's looking for acceptance. He says that Charlo, by saying these things, by saying that race didn't play a factor, that Charlo's looking for acceptance. And I put to you that, Wilder, you're the one looking for acceptance. You're the one who refuses now to do interviews with the mainstream. You now are the one who only does interviews with your own groupie followers, fangirls. You're looking for acceptance. You're the one who all of a sudden has become this kind of, you know what I'm saying? That's Wilder now. He's trying to play that alternative. Oh yeah, I'm really for the people kind of role. You've regressed into that I'm for the people role. which is often what happens. When people get washed, they often result to kind of appealing to a niche. Oh yeah, I'm going to be a champion for my goofy followers. I'm going to be a champion for my goofy fans. For all of my fangirls. I'm going to be a no shame have an ass. That's where Wilder's regressed to. He's the one begging for acceptance. And trying to find a home for himself. After he got filled in. Jermell Charlo's just talking the truth. Jermell Charlo hasn't come out and... We all know people who brown nose. We know people like, I don't know, Candace Owens. She's a brown noser. She is someone who begs for acceptance 100%. But Wilder's doing the same thing, but to a different crowd, if that makes sense. Candace Owens beg friends a certain crowd. There's no doubt about that. Jermell Charlo's comments have nothing to do with beg friending. With that said, Deontay Wilder, equally, he beg friends a certain crowd as well. He beg friends that, I can't describe it exactly, but you know what I mean? Beg friending is beg friending. Whatever crowd you're trying to beg friend for is irrelevant. That's the first thing anyway. Next thing. Wilder says, I want to slap him. I want to slap Charlo. Listen, Wilder. You ain't going to slap no one. Yeah? Because when you thought you was going to slap someone, you ended up talking about how the LAPD did you wrong. By the time Fury ended up with finishing up with you, yeah, you was looking into suing the LAPD. That's how wrong Fury did you. Fury did you so badly, you thought you was Rodney King 2.0. Innit? That's the truth. I don't care what no one says. I've seen the papers. Wilder is filed in court that he's suing the LAPD because the Wilder and Fury fight took place in LA. So he's suing them for not coming to his aid. Yeah? He's suing them for not answering his call. And for abuse. Because, again, I'll tell you one more time. Wilder's playing the footage of Rodney King and then playing his own footage against Fury and comparing it and saying, look, the police didn't step in and help me. Yeah? And that there is a white man mauling me. So it's got kind of racial undertones. The footage has of Wilder versus Fury. Got some racial undertones, and Wilder's in court. Wilder's and his legal team are planning on playing on that to the judge, saying, "Look, Fury's getting all up inside me, whooping me all over. Yeah, I need some compensation from the LAPD for this, because you man should have jumped in and saved me. Instead, you did me wrong." So anyway, listen. I'm not trying to get political or controversial. That's just what it is. In fact, that's just what I'm hearing. Wilder is suing LAPD, and I'm going to do a whole video on it in its own right, but I'm just telling you where this is going. Yeah? Wilder's lost the plot, lost his head, and that's that, no doubt.